Hi, everybody. Welcome to our What's on the Roadmap Q2 2025 webinar with Happy Cabbage Analytics. I'm Andrew, CEO of Happy Cabbage, and I'm joined here today with our CTO, Eric Cobb, and our COO running product and ops, Danny Gold. Uh, let's dive right in. So, one thing I always like to start with is just remind folks, Happy Cabbage, what do we do if you haven't heard of us before? We make retail cannabis ordering easy, right? With the only inventory tool specifically built for retail cannabis buyers. On average, this tool is helping folks save about 10 hours a week in overall time spent doing the ordering tasks and about $150,000 of free cash flow per store. We'll talk a little bit about some new features and functionality that we're launching, have just launched, and are going to be launching with this tool in this webinar. Um, some other quick stats. So these are some fresh off the press. If you haven't seen these recently, this is stats we've pulled this year so far on like how Happy Cabbage, Happy Buyers clients are doing. On average, they have 17 fewer days of supply. Their total amount of SKUs have been reduced 11%. Their slow moving SKUs are reducing 14%. And we're seeing the tool work across a bevy of different customers here. So if you recognize any logos on this list, feel free to talk to them, reach out to them, and you'll find tools working. So we're really excited here today to talk about some new stuff coming. But the first thing I want to mention is we are now live with Flow Hub. This was a pretty big thing that was requested by a lot of folks. Huge, we say on internally in Happy Cabbage popcorn. So popcorn to Danny and Cobb here for working together to put Flow Hub on the integration roadmap and make it live. If you would like, are on Flow Hub and you've been like following what we're doing and you're like, oh man, I really wish they had Happy Buyers for Flow Hub. Guess what? It is now available, and we are happy to say that we are supporting the same level of functionality for Flow Hub as we do for our other integrations, including Dutchy, which is still our largest integration that we have to date. I'm also really happy to say that if you're on Flow Hub or any of those systems we were just showing, we're happy to give a free 14-day free trial. This is also something that was like had been heavily requested this year by folks who are interested. They've heard about the tool, but everyone's like, I just want to make it real by seeing our data in the tool. So now we have a 14-day free trial. So more information on that coming up. But without further ado, let's get into more things on the roadmap. Like, what are new pieces of functionality we're adding into here? So, Danny, why don't you kick us off and just give us like a really quick overview of where we're sitting on the roadmap right now?
Right on. Hey y'all, I'm excited to go through. It's always excited to see it kind of laid out too. Kind of where we came from, where we're going with Happy Buyers. The big thing to look at in the kind of that launch, the first part of this timeline is when we first launched the tool, it really worked on one task, arguably the most important task that a buyer does every week. Most buyers, it's like the first part of their week. It's their Monday, Tuesday. What do they have to do? You have to order products. You have to make sure the shelves are stocked, right? You have to make sure that first and foremost, you don't run out of your critical profit margin contributing SKUs, the things people come in and buy over and over again, the things that fly off the shelf. That's where our restock report, generating purchase requests, it's like two bubbles coming off there in our launch. There's a lot of meat behind that. There's a lot of data science behind that. There's a lot of math behind that. We really work to make sure that our inventory ordering suggestions were super, super accurate. So that meant tracking run rates, right? How fast are you moving SKUs through? Understanding when products are in and out of stock. How are they moving between rooms? Understanding which rooms you consider front of house and back of house, and which rooms are like return quarantine excluded. So we actually know is it in and out of stock, and you don't just have one SKU hiding somewhere that's making it look like it's in stock, and throwing off all of your run rate data. Um, so everything in that initial release was really around the task of ordering. What brands do I need to order from? What vendors do I need to order from? What brands do they carry? How much of each SKU do I need to order? We do that really, really well. We're always working on it. I don't think there's a week that goes by where we don't make an update to something in that restock report, in our run rate algorithms, and all the data behind this. We're updating our purchase request right now. You'll kind of see that in this enhanced purchase request. So we try not to throw out a ton of features and just move on to the next ton of features. Like we're really trying to understand and optimize the job a retail buyer is doing. And then what you'll see in the recent releases is, of course, there are multiple jobs that a retail buyer is doing. So that first release is, how do I order? What's my Monday, Tuesday ordering? What we've really gotten into in the last few months, and I arguably even the last 30 days, is more around menu planning. We can call it inventory health. You can consider it like product mix and allocation. But it's really understanding like who stays and who goes, who is contributing to actually paying the bills. So when we go into the screen to show the app, we'll look at like how do we view that? How quickly can you find that, right? You could have fast movers at low margin, and you could have mid movers at really high margin. Like which one actually puts dollars in your bank account so you can make payroll next week, right? Who is fueling the business? Who is funding the business? Understanding a lot around rotational SKUs, right? Strain-based products are the unique thing we deal in with cannabis. Most retail software can't handle it. It's not a box of Cheerios with the same SKU, and you can always order that box, right? It's like your Cheerios come in 27 different strains, and you can't order the same Cheerios that flew off your shelf last week, right? That's the world we live in. So SKU groups fit into that. And then we're going to get into really the like where are we skating to? We have that automated ordering at the end. That's always top of mind, right? And it's like this thing that we make a lot of progress to. You could say we do a lot of it now. We have suggested allocation and orders, and you can click add to cart and build your purchase request. That is automated ordering. But we ain't done yet. Like we're working on automated ordering and automated ordering and automated ordering. And how can I put in front of you all the things you need to do today and check them off the list? So we're really always moving in that direction. And we have a lot of things that we're releasing every week that are going to be coming in the weeks and months to follow around more and more automated ordering in there.
Cool. So let's get into some stuff that is live now that just hit the press.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
get into
People don't want
it?
to, we love talking about what we're building. People don't want to talk about what they're building until they can use it. So we want to let everybody know what we're thinking about and obsessing over. But what can you do today? That 14-day trial, right? You hit us up, you share an API key, we get your data in there. What can you do with it? Recently, these three things kind of covering major areas: the SKU groups, rotating SKUs, that inventory health. How can I walk top down and understand what's contributing to the success of my business? And then when things go off the rails a little bit, your aging data is kind of where the SOPs kick in for how do I actually move these? How do I not carry those again? How do I work with a vendor and a brand to figure out how to return some things in there? So that's enough talking about it. Let's do some
Let's show it.
show and tell.
Let's show
Um,
it.
all right, screen share. We'll also keep this super, super collaborative. So the three of us, myself, Eric, and Andrew here, we literally talk about this all day, every day, in Slack, on Zoom calls, huddling up, middle of the night, sending each other texts. So we want to kind of give you a behind the scenes look of not just, hey, here's this feature, what does it do? But how did it come to be? How are people using it? What's interesting? It's always the iceberg thing, right? If we nail this, it'll always look simple. Cobb will tell you it's not simple. He lives like fully below that iceberg level of like what are the machines doing to roll up this data and give you a view of it, right? So let's start here on inventory health. I mentioned, the first task we're really working on is reordering. When we think about inventory health and kind of walking top down, especially multi-location, it really does come down to like menu planning and just understanding at a glance what's the health of your business and what is contributing to that health, or what's in the way of that health, right? So there's kind of two ways to look at it. What do you want to lean in and double down on? Who are your relationships that you're like, I should call them? Can I increase that margin a little bit? Or who are you like, I don't know, like it's not working out. We gave it a shot, but it's just not contributing. Like we can't make a business out of it. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, it could be a brand we love. It could be people we love. Hopefully, we can have a conversation with them and help them improve it. But sometimes it's just time to move on and say we tried. It wasn't there. It's not moving the needle enough for us, right? So when we look at inventory health and we look at this kind of summary, we talk about these as roll up. You talk about it as top down. It's something that a lot of pivot tables and spreadsheets, as always, can be put together. It's something that a lot of, I would say, point of sale reports and reporting tools will give you like top five, top 10. One thing that we chose to do here is let you walk all of your data from a store level to a category level to a brand level to a SKU level and see it all. You can page through all of it. We're not just going to surface the top 10. You can sort on any of the columns here if you want to look at your health in different ways. When you log in, you'll see it's sorted by total profit. Why? These are the dollars given back to your business post discount, pre-tax. You don't get to keep the tax, right? The discount, you never got the dollars from in the first place. Post discount, pre-tax. This should be the dollars that you get to put in the bank account, which is where all the bills have to come out of, right? It's very, very important. It might not be the only way you want to look at it, but here in a multi-store setup, I can see which stores are contributing, which stores are struggling, right? There's different locations. We don't expect them all to perform. You would understand why your Mountain East has a much lower population than your Western burbs. You can understand that and know if that's a problem or not. You can look here. We talked about aging a little bit. I could sort the same data. What's interesting is like Western burbs is contributing a lot of profit. It's also got a lot of age units over here. So it could be better, right? Like it's already great. It's already my top performing store. Can I get more out of it? How do I get more out of it? Looking at aging products is a good way to optimize in there and start to dive into that. But a thing that you'll probably do the most, I'm going to skip over. You can walk stores, categories, brands. I'll come back to it. But brands are really, really the thing that I think about in menu planning and inventory health of, that's who you choose to partner with. That's who you choose to carry with. Of course, they carry multiple product lines in different categories. But when you think about menu planning, it's almost always where you jump to next. Like you get that snapshot of like, how are my stores performing? Okay, what's going on here? I might come back to that. But you think about like brand leaderboards, top brands contributing, right? You come in here and you sort brands by profit, and you can see which brands you're carrying are paying the bills, right? And it's always interesting when you look at this because these numbers can tell different stories. My margin might be lower on this brand than some other brands. Room for improvement there. Go negotiate. My units sold could be medium. My dollars sold could be high and low. You can kind of sort by these and look at how it's contributing because maybe this one's throwing off the most, but there's ways to improve other ones, right? If I've got one that I'm selling a ton of, but it's not contributing to the profit, I'm over discounting it, right? I need better price negotiation on that one. There's a lot of ways to look at this. Another thing to look at is diving into the store by store. So going in here and saying, okay, how does this look in med versus rec? If I have a med versus rec thing, because my brand's contributing overall could be different store by store. So I can explore this not just at the highest store level. I can explore brand contribution at a store. I can look at this and say, okay, we looked at Mountain East, right? Mountain East, lower population, lower traffic. That's fine, but I need to be careful there to not overstock that. Then it's fine to know that, but are there brands that are aging a lot more that we need to have conversations with? And when I think about aging here, I can look at four different aging buckets. I can look at 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, 90 plus, right? The standard kind of retail buyer buckets that they put aging into. You can see I've got the 61 plus buckets here, right? I've got profit, I've got other data here. I'm not really looking at those two buckets for the the kind of positive negative side. On the negative side, I'm looking at 60 plus. That's what I'm considering this aged inventory. 0 to 30 is not a problem. 31 to 60 is like warning lights start to flash. Certain categories, certain SKUs, maybe that's fine. Your topicals, your tinctures, like those almost always go 30. Like you can't order a small enough case size to clear it in 30 days, but you got to have it. It's an add-on product. There are you treat these different categories differently, which you can look at in categories here, right? If I go to my topicals tinctures, I'll probably see some different aging data in here. Although here we're keeping it actually pretty low. We know that over here. Some of my fast movers I'm overstocked on. We got live data. This is probably post 420. Some overstock going on too. Everybody remember that. We'll hit on some features on how to deal with that. But I'm really looking at this 60 plus for, do I have a problem with certain brands here? That's where I'm going to flash at. Now, what do I do about that? Let's just pick. I'm going to pick on somebody. Look, it's a hover. Drill down, right? We talk about roll ups and drill downs. This is my rolled up inventory health. How's my store doing? How's it doing by category? How are my brands doing at certain stores? But then I'm going to need to dive in and understand that, right? And I'll just do this again just to show how fast this is, which is something we really, really, really hang our hats on. It's just the speed and performance of everything in this app. We do not release it if it's not fast. I'm going to kick it to Cobb here in 30 seconds and let him talk about how we make it fast, because things like inventory health, where we're doing just a massive amount of calculations, and then we're trying to click through and show you the SKU by SKU breakdown of that, so you could look at it and say like, okay, that brand has a problem. Is it the brand overall? Not really. It's certain SKUs, right? So maybe I just need to cull a few SKUs from that brand. I can drill down and start to make that menu planning, assortment mix decisions here, looking at my margin and my dollar sold and my profit from different SKUs. Because there's some in here that might be great, and then there's some in here as I get into the pages that I'm probably just carrying too many SKU from this brand. It may not be a brand problem. It may be it's going to cut it down a little bit. But this speed of clicking around this is really unmatched and not available in general reporting tools that are building on reporting frameworks and analytics frameworks. Like, this is enterprise B2B software that we're purposely building to do this. We're not building this on a reporting interface that takes 2 minutes to generate reports. We're building this as interactive, click through, instantaneously loaded, sortable apps. So Cobb, I'm gonna drink some coffee. As you can tell, I got a little bit of a scratchy throat going into this. Thank you, allergy and cold season. But how the heck do we make this fast? And talk about inventory health, because I think I heard you curse inventory health for about 45 days while we were working on it. So I know a lot is here to make this perform like you're seeing it perform.
Yeah, that's a big topic. It can get a little boring. But I think to kind of summarize, um, it's a lot of little things. And I think that what the way I would sort of categorize all of these little things is, um, when you think about the work that Danny mentions, the stuff that you do to dig this data out, if it's even available, in various reports and various different tools, um, we we spend a lot of time thinking about what that domain is, what the inventory health, what is the information that you want to seek out when you're looking at inventory health. And we kind of have that well formed and well formatted in our schema, which is, just how we describe the data in our model, in our APIs. And then we do a lot of work, and I'm talking about actual compute work. We do a lot of work, figuring this stuff out in advance before you ask for it. So we are not calculating the total profit for Western Burbs when you click this button. We are calculating it, at a regular cadence every single day. So it's up to date. It's fresh. But we try to anticipate what sort of information people will be looking for, and then spend a lot of time calculating that stuff in advance, computing it in advance. Um, part of this, start talking about numbers, part of this is um, us having insight into what is actually happening when people use it. This is sort of a foundational principle of observability that I spend a lot of time talking about with my team. So I can tell you, for example, that today, we're pretty early in the morning. I think it's just after 9 a.m. Pacific time right now. We have done 1,300 different jobs, doing this computation today. It's across all our different organizations, calculating this stuff, and we're going to be doing this all throughout the day, hourly, updating these numbers. We have also handled close to 200,000 API requests. An API request is something that fires off every time, Danny does a click here, he's loading data from the server, and that's an API request that happens. I can tell you that of those 200,000 API requests, the average, amount of time it took to make that request is 120 milliseconds. And that's something that we spend a lot of time talking about, a lot of time thinking about. I know it can start throwing these numbers out, and we can kind of get lost in the weeds of some technical stuff here. But I think the core idea is, anticipating what users need, computing it, spending all that effort and time and compute time, calculating it up front, and then being really on top of our understanding of how long it's taking people to get access to this data, and how often we are calculating the data so that we can react if anything looks off or starts to slow down.
And I think that actually also touches on something that's super important about this, and that care and that attention to detail, that, hey, can we make these requests run in milliseconds type of thinking is oftentimes what we hear from new folks who are on the tool are, it's wicked fast and it's wicked accurate. And I've tried things like this before that just don't work, right? And I think it really comes down to there's a huge amount of effort, energy, and attention that we're putting into making sure it works, right? And I think one thing that demonstrates that level of data infrastructural detail is, if Danny, if you just go back to inventory health real quick, or even in this screen, just pick something like something that 383 units aged over 90 days over into the right, where you looked and we were looking at those units aged type of thing. And if you just click into that view panel down there and you scroll down, what you can see is we can actually trace all the way up from showing you at this store level in milliseconds. This is how much inventory you have that is aged over 90 days. And in milliseconds, you can click down to seeing the actual package level detail of how much it costs and where those units came from at the batch level that supports that top level insight, right? And the fact that we're able to do that so flexibly, so quickly, so accurately, right, is indicative of the fact that this is built for scale, right? Scale across not just 1, 2, 3, or 4 locations, but scale across dozens of locations. And everything that we're building and every piece of feature and functionality that we build, we intentionally make sure that we can have that kind of scalability built in with the work that Eric has been doing.
And I think it can't be understated how fast this is. And we'll call back to that 14-day trial. Don't take our word for it. We're extremely confident in what we've built. We're extremely confident in where this product is at the stage of its life cycle. We're not done. We're going to talk about all the stuff we're working on, right? You're seeing all the stuff we already did before. We're obviously monitoring and hardening it, constantly adding to it. But it works, and it works really, really well, and it performs impressively well because of the work that's put into it. And there's not a user who doesn't say that when they click through. And the reason is you're used to pulling point of sale reports, right? To get this data, you have to pull multiple point of sale reports. You're used to exporting those to spreadsheets. You're used to building custom Tableau reports, custom Looker reports, right? All these tools that are more of this like data reporting general tools. Pull this in and get your columns and your headers lined up and then try to figure out how to pivot across them. Those things are slow. They can't do what Bob mentioned, which is understanding the domain and predicting what data you need access to, and then building that overnight and updating it every hour and caching it and making it available to you in a tenth of a second. Right? Cobb walked through all of those things. That's what we do. We figure out what data you need to act on. We make sure it's built and we make sure it's accessible to you in a tenth of a second. What that means, and I was doing some of this clicking in the background, but that what that means is if I wanted to find at my downtown store, right? Let's do a downtown rec store. I wanted to find what $10 infused pre-rolls. I'm going to do downtown rec pre-rolls. I'm going to go in and do maximum $10. I'm going to make this a 1 gram pre-roll and I'm going to make it infused. And I want to figure out which of my SKUs is my fastest moving 1 gram infused $10 pre-roll at downtown rec. Somebody comes into your office and asks you that. Like the system is faster than I can talk it out, right? Like that was I wasn't even finished telling you like what query I was building in there. It's there, it's on the screen. You watch this live update. And this is live updating and crawling across 23,000 SKUs here in this 5-store set to find you that insight, which is actionable, right? Which one is my lowest performing? The questions you can pose to this, you can find those answers like this. You can find them in real time. You can find them while you're on a call with the brand, placing an order, trying to make a decision so that you don't over order, so that you don't carry too many SKUs, so somebody doesn't pressure you in a situation where you feel like I just gotta make a call. Sure, add it on there. You can pull this up. You can pull this up on a tablet. We were just talking about this yesterday. We're seeing buyers pull this up on tablets. You know, they might be pulled over in a car in a parking lot, you know, in front of the store. Like, oh, hold on a second, let me look. No, we don't need those. We're actually overstocked. We have too many 1 gram infused across a variety of brands. Like, not this order, maybe next time. You can make a data-driven decision in seconds when the data is available in tenths of seconds. You don't have to run back to your computer and spend 2 hours building a pivot table to give an answer, right? It's there, and it's available to you as literally as fast as you can click it, as fast as I can click and think about how I want to look at the data and what product I want to find. I can find it in there.
So do you want to then take that same example and then, you know, because we talk about exploring it, looking at it, doing these things, the ultimate task is doing that order and doing that order in a way that's accurate with SKU.
Let's do it again.
It's a
Yeah, let's do it again. So let's do a $10. Yeah, let's do a $10 infuse. So one of the features we talked about.
Why would we want to know about $10 one?
Why is this group important?
I guess you probably want a brand on there too.
Yeah. If I'm gonna order, we see a lot of odds in here. Let's do that one. So we'll just see from this. All right, $10, 1 gram infused pre-rolls from a brand. They're pitching me, they got 10 hot strains. I need to get my order in, right? I'm talking to them. They sent their Google sheet, that's their ordering interface for infused pre-rolls that I've got to go fill out and make a copy of. So I'm trying to figure this out, right? Demand groups, SKU groups, we're kind of in flux of, you're going to see this tab change from demand groups to SKU groups. The problem we're talking about are rotating SKUs, right? Look at this. There's a bunch of SKUs here.
94 different things across all these different.
Yeah, there's like I'm just talking about $10 infused pre-rolls, y'all. My top performing one, my jealousy Cushmans, may not be on that menu today, right? What I need to understand for accurate ordering in this scenario where drops come and they're only available for 2 weeks, and then I want to order it and I can't, but I still need to satisfy the demand of a set of products. My customers are coming in, they want 1 gram infused pre-rolls, they may want 1 gram in indica or hybrid pre-rolls. Get down and understand the demand of that, right? Can filter this on the strain classifications here and understand that demand. But the problem is these SKUs are replacing each other. If Jealousy Mints was hot last week and I can't get it, they're going to buy something else. They might be bummed. You might go to the vendor and be like, that was so hot. Why didn't you grow more of that? That decision was made 90 days ago. You can't get it today. You can try to share the data with them so that they can better plan their canopy and get the right strains in. But the thing I need to know is what to order. I still have to order. I can't just be like, sorry, I'm not going to order. It wasn't available, right? So I'm going to create a demand group. And I am going to do $10 1 gram infused pre-rolls. A couple things on this. And once again, free trial. Come in, use this. We'll show you how it works. I won't click every button and show you everything in here. I mentioned I could share this with the vendor. I could put that vendor's name in here and say, I'm going to live share the demand with you so that you can better produce products that our customers want and cut products that aren't moving. And you can share that and transparently understand how all their SKUs are moving. It's really, really powerful. The vendor can get a suggested order from you automatically on Tuesdays. If you order from this vendor every Tuesday, you can put their email addresses in here, share that with them, and make that a transparent thing. We're just going to explore here and understand what this demand group, demand report, SKU group, rotating SKU group is. And it's just the fact that we think about inventory. What if the three of us came into your store with a bunch of Home Depot 50-gallon buckets and a bunch of masking tape and Sharpies, and we literally went through your vault and we subdivided your inventory into literal buckets that said $10 1 gram infused indica pre-rolls. And if a customer walked into your store and put their hand in their bucket, they would be happy. You know, they might say, can I get a jealousy thing? And you'd be like, oh, let's look at the bucket. Oh, we don't have that flavor today. Will you take this one? This one's really similar. They're going to be happy. You're going to sell through that bucket. Understanding demand in this complicated world of cannabis and strain-based products is understanding how full does that bucket need to be so that it's not overflowing and so that it never gets empty before you replenish it. How are you keeping it in this range? And we need to create 200 buckets across our inventory so that we can understand that demand. That is how cannabis ordering has to be done to stock perfectly to demand. If you do it at the SKU level, you're going to overorder because these SKUs replace each other. If you do it at the category level or the brand level, it's too broad. These products don't, a 2.5 gram infused pre-roll does not replace a 1 gram, 10% THC indica, pre-roll in there. Like, you have to get more specific. You have to understand your buckets, your inventory as buckets of demand. So if we go over here, we did that. As fast as we can slice the inventory, I can tell you how many $10 1 gram infused pre-rolls do I move store by store? What's my aging across $10 1 gram infused pre-rolls? How many days on hand? Arguably the most important number in this entire screen, because it's predictive aging. This is the past. You have to deal with this. If it hits these buckets, like, you have to take action. There's SOPs that have to kick in here. This is going to predict how many of these units are going to go to each bucket. This report is going to break down all the data I need to know here. More importantly, if I needed to restock, it's going to tell me that. Now, I'm well stocked on these stores because I was trying to go for 14 days on hand. You can see, I'm hovering at around 30 days or less. Where this really becomes powerful is when I flip on this restock. So what this restock is going to do is build suggested orders for me. So you can see here at a store that's understocked, this is surfacing what I need to order with these added carts, build my suggested purchase order. I can just do add all to cart here, and it's going to tell me all these heaters, what I need to order, what my estimated cost is. That's not my estimated cost in Jeter because I was obviously doing some testing. I had a bunch of stuff in my cart. So if we do that again, when I clear my cart and I don't have 1,000 SKUs, you can see that's called load testing, y'all. What happens if I had 1,200 SKUs and try to build an order in my cart? Let's go back to having the 7, right? So I can see what my estimated Jeter order is here, and I can send this off to them. But the important thing is that without a bunch of pivot tables and a bunch of work, we did all this math for you. We show our work. There's interesting data in here. But the important thing is we're surfacing a suggested order. And if we go back to that timeline roadmap slide, automated ordering, the thing, where we're going, it's where we're there. This is the part of automated
Automated ordering.
Automated ordering. I've got it. We solved it. Done. End of call. We are, and I'll tease the next step in automated ordering. You watched me create a demand group. You watched me create a demand group of that 1 gram infused pre-rolls. It was pretty easy, right? There's a lot of nuance. You do have to create 200 of those to bucket your inventory. You need the 3 of us to walk in with those Home Depot buckets and those markers and sort your inventory for you. That's what we're working on right now. So Andrew, who's not just COO, chief data scientist, has been working on the machine learning, the AI, we'll buzzword it, right?
It's an AI. It's actually
we're
an
using AI to scan your inventory and do that bucket for you. We're sending the robots in to the vault. They're going to do it. We don't want to do it. You know, we want to hang out with you and talk about big level things. We'll let the robots go do the Sharpies and the masking tape in the buckets. Robots are being deployed in your inventory. We're going to automatically slice your inventory into all the buckets. When that's done, I could do add all to cart across every bucket. And that is my order for Monday that I need. Is there a lot of nuance to that? Yes. Are we going to be working on this until the end of time? Yes. Is that a big step in, we know accurate ordering happens at this bucket level, at these SKU group levels. We know it can take a lot of work to create those. So if we create those for you, it's a big leap in automated ordering. And that's some of the stuff that is coming in these next releases that is right on the horizon. You know, Cobb's working on it, Andrew's talking about it. Let's talk about it for a second. Also, so I can drink some tea here and soothe my throat as it crackles here. You all have been working together on deploying AI for the SKU groups, for automatically proliferating them and covering your entire inventory. That's a pretty rad and important project as it gets to automated ordering. Like, talk about that workflow between you and like things that we learned and things we figured out.
Yeah, so I can just kick it. So Danny, if you really quickly, I'm gonna hold you on this. Just mimic that flow again that you were doing on the screen right now.
Yep.
By
So do the
clicking
pre-rolls. Yeah, so they're gonna go pre-rolls. I'm gonna go to a brand, right? So I got a category, I got a brand.
Yeah.
I got a weight, right? Because so many of these products are weight based, right? So it needs to be 1 gram. And then I was doing infused.
You have a search
right?
term. Yeah.
A search term for infused. So here you go.
Exactly. Right. And so what you can see here is like throughout that, right? If you just basically look at like the pills at the top of the screen here, right? So what are we talking about? We're thinking of like, how can we iterate through all of your inventory and say, okay, if we go by category, if we go by brand, if we go by weight, right? If we look at price buckets potentially, we're always still running into sort of this issue that a lot of folks bring up that you probably deal with was, well, even if I get down to my Oz cannabis pre-rolls, I'm dealing with my Oz cannabis infused pre-rolls, my Oz cannabis multi-pack pre-rolls, my Oz cannabis sleep CBD pre-rolls or whatever they are, right? Like, and that complexity is made very difficult in cannabis specifically because then when you go back to the distributor, you're dealing with the fact that they have dozens of different strains and every single month they're coming up with new ones, right? And so if you're trying to go product by product to figure out how many odds cannabis infused pre-rolls are, if you pull how much you've of all the ones you've ever sold, you're dealing with hundreds of products of which not that many are actually available, right? So what we're in the process of right now is you saw how Danny had to click and manually click those buttons and click those things to do it, right? Ultimately, what we're doing is we are training an AI model to be able to find those buckets for you, right? So at launch with Happy Cabbage, we can take an AI model, right? And we can essentially auto group the inventory into these types of things, looking at product names in order to extract that information, like is it infused, is it not infused, and all that kind of stuff. And we are using that with some of the state-of-the-art AI technology out there today. We've been reviewing multiple different modeling techniques from Google, from Anthropic, from OpenAI, and we're actually developing a workflow where essentially we're layering the data and learning on top of those AI models under the hood. And Cobb, if you want to talk a little bit about why that's really interesting, specifically about how we're doing it, because honestly, some of the way of using these AI models in production at that scale that we're talking about, just because they're very new, hasn't necessarily been done yet. And so some of this is actually very cutting edge work in terms of like actual applications of AI embedded into the actual systems that we're building.
Yeah, yeah, this is all really interesting stuff. I think, if it didn't come across earlier, I spent a lot of time thinking about building and, taking these data science pipelines, and converting them into, I mentioned before, anticipating the way the data needs to look, anticipating the schema and calculating it, computing it. I think what is tempting, in this age of AI hype is to drop a ChatGPT chat box into an app and call your app AI enabled. I think, in the vein of what we were talking about before about the speed and the performance, wow, can we get like a um, meaningful, performant, useful tool in front of people? Um, eh, that kind of remains the question, right? So I think the key insight that we had, Andrew was hitting on here, is that we have structured metadata that we derive from the point of sales. It gets us really, really close, to creating all these demand groups, creating these buckets that Danny keeps talking about. We have the brand, right? You saw him click on that. When I say structured metadata, you saw in the app, like Danny's clicking on the brand name. He's specifying that 1G, for that 1 gram. He's specifying that this is a 1 gram pre-roll. It's classified as a pre-roll, right? Um, but we get to a point where we don't have that structured metadata. And that's where these models, I think that's kind of the key insight that Andrew made there, is that the structured metadata can take us really far, and then we can use these these LLMs to kind of take us that last little bit, to that thing that a human can do really well, looking at all of the, Oz 1 gram pre-rolls and identifying, like, okay, so like, what are these? Like, how would I describe these 3 or 4 different buckets that these are? There's infused. There's the single packs, the multi-packs, that the stuff that Andrew mentioned. I would go so far as to say, Andrew was saying, we're developing that model. I think, that model is developed, right? So I
Yeah.
think what is interesting for me, again, as a builder, someone who thinks about this stuff, is, again, like, making this an actual actionable, useful feature, is really what I'm passionate about. And that is, what we're working on now and what we'll have available shortly, so that it is something that is, impactful and useful and meaningful, and not just, a chat box in an app, right? Which is a fun trick, but you know doesn't necessarily get us closer to that automated ordering is our North Star.
Yeah. Getting there. Close.
Yeah.
We need some shots fired sound effects on the just dropping the chat GPT.
So with that, what
Yeah,
we'll do
we could talk about the design. I don't know, like, guys, you guys want to do some
we'll have to do that'll be a subsequent
UML
we'll do a
modeling? I mean, we
specialized
got it all,
webinar.
right?
Yeah, we'll do a
API design.
specialized webinar of putting GPT into production.
If we've all seen the headlines, right? I think Spotify's CEO is leading this charge here about, if you're not using AI in your job, you're going to be fired. Like, everybody's having to produce reports on just making sure they're staying up with productivity tools, which AI is a very modern productivity tool, right? It's our current day printing press, assembly line, take any of the leaps in productivity, when deployed well. This is your answer if somebody's like, hey, how are we using AI to better automate and make better decisions and do our jobs better? When you launch this tool, it's on happycabbage.ai. That domain name is earning its .ai here, with the things that we're talking about. Like, we're deploying real AI in that business specific, not just a chat GPT. We loaded all your data in here. It's like, how can we optimize your inventory? How can we automated ordering? How can we deploy AI to get you to accurate automated ordering? There are a lot of tools that are surfacing. You are low on this SKU, please order it. If you order every one of those suggestions that are being surfaced at a SKU level, I am confident and I promise you, you will be overstocked. We have looked at this data. We have gone round and round. We have asked ourselves endlessly, are we overcomplicating how we're looking at inventory? And the answer is no. If you are not predicting orders at a SKU group level, you will be overstocked. If you are just ordering as things run low, SKU by SKU, you will be overstocked. If you're using a tool that is suggesting orders SKU by SKU like that, you will be overstocked. This is where we're deploying AI to solve that problem, not so we can have a whizzy little square that's like, you're low on Blue Dream, order it. And so we can tell you what to order so that you don't hit those aging buckets, so that you don't have dollars in overstock, so that you are stocking perfectly to demand. And so those buckets are filling up without overflowing and then coming down and then filling up and coming down. It's where you want to be in that inventory turnover.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So that's coming soon. Automated SKU groups coming soon.
So that
Real AI.
basically, I mean, we might, there's a time very soon where as a retail cannabis buyer, you can spend your time, instead of going line by line in Excel and exporting and checking and saying this is wrong and redoing your formulas. You can be talking to the vendors. You can be talking to the brands. You can be figuring out how to get better margins. You can be actually assessing your menu planning and your long-term menu health. You can be making sure that discounts aren't driving your entire store into the ground, right? That is the vision that we're really bringing here. And the way that we're doing it is not necessarily adding more things you need to do, but we're actually taking things away so that the most important and impactful parts of your job, which is the financial viability of the stores, not a single product that is sold at a store can be sold at a store without a cannabis retail buyer deciding that that product is sold at the store, and the store cannot make a single dollar of money without products being sold at the store. Right.
And
So
if you look, back through some of the success metrics we shared, dropping days on hand by 10 plus days, putting 150 grand back in the bank account, right? Reducing SKUs by 10%. Those stats are competitive advantage, competitive differentiators. If you're not doing that, somebody down the street is, and they're going to outperform, and they're going to survive. We all know this isn't the time to talk about how tough cannabis is, right? Like, we're pushing 10 plus years in this, doing these things. Like, a lot of you are, even deeper than that. We're all here with the same goals. To Andrew's point, the success of your business is driven by getting these things right, by having the attention to detail at all of these levels. And especially when you go from one store to two stores, 3 stores to 10 stores, you cannot deploy humans to do it well. You're going to have a buyer at one store do it differently than a buyer at another store. That consistent ordering, that accurate ordering, those human biases are going to creep in, and those human biases are going to have a cost. And that's nothing against the buyers. We all have them. We have to make data-driven approaches. And none of us have the time to do the things we're letting the computers do here. So it's not about replacing humans. It is about giving that time back for community, for making those relationships with the brands, for better margins with the brands, for deciding who to carry, who stays, who goes, for putting a better, awareness around what's going on in the stores and sharing that and collaborating around it. But it's a competitive advantage. It may be the definition of whether that store survives or not. That 10% is payroll. That will be, can I leave the lights on for another day? Do I have to go back and go try to find, loan shark terms at 17% to borrow debt to keep this going? That debt's sitting in your vault. It's sitting in overstocked inventory. We can tell you where it is. We can tell you how to reduce it. and we can tell you how to avoid taking it on in the future.
Yeah. Cool. So thanks. I think we're at time here. We flashed up a couple stuff of just some more coming soon things, but really that thing that is coming soon is working towards this automated ordering functionality. So, and again, we have a 14-day free trial. So if you don't believe anything we're saying, try it out. No risk-free, no cost. Again, just launched on FlowHub. So available that, also available to all Dutchy, Trees, Blaze, and Meadow customers out there. Try it or you won't believe it. That's all I say. It's some future shit that we got going on here. So cool. And then also folks are always wondering, well, then how much does all this cost? We've also simplified our pricing to something very basic, straightforward. Average store is getting $150,000 in free cash flow, and is spending about $200 a month with us. So thank you all.